It is Wednesday, August 27th, and we are witnessing the beginning of the end of the Federal Reserve. President Trump terminating Fed Governor Lisa Cook, an alleged mortgage fraudster. Cook refusing to leave. Scott Bessent torching Lisa Cook this morning. And all of it to purposefully bring forth a constitutional crisis. That's what's happening. Expose the dirty truth behind the Federal Reserve. Show the American public what it's all really about, the unaccountable, quasi-private central bank. This is a stepping stone, the beginning of the end of the Fed. Also, Trump putting the Soroses on notice, and more stories as well from around the country.
Investors feel the same about federal law enforcement. But the fury may not be fully organic. Fox News has learned that paid protester requests have increased 400% since President Trump announced the federal takeover of D.C.'s police department. The New York Post reports that high-dollar donors like George Soros have pumped more than $20 million into protest groups currently organizing demonstrations in the district.
President Trump continuing his effort to eradicate violent crime in this country, looking to cut the head off the snake, warning the Soros family, both George Soros and his son Alex, we're watching you. Be very careful. Writing this morning on Truth Social, George Soros and his wonderful radical left son should be charged with RICO because of their support of violent protests and much more all throughout the United States of America. We're not going to allow these lunatics to rip apart America anymore, never giving it so much as a chance to breathe and be free. Soros and his group of psychopaths have caused great damage to our country. That includes his crazy West Coast friends. Be careful. We're watching you. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So we know that George Soros has figured out our system, dialed it in. He's gone in and elected these uber liberal DAs around the country, knocked off Democratic DAs. Right now, today, 70% of our country is controlled by Soros-funded DAs. 70% district attorneys. We've seen this in cities across the country, in Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, all over California, New York. He went in, knocked off DAs who were prosecuting crimes and funded DAs who refused to prosecute these crimes. The Trump administration understands all of this now, how serious a problem it is, crime proliferating in all of our cities because of this. And since this has happened, the cartels have even begun moving into these cities. It's very odd, the relationship there. ICE now encountering this, hence why Trump posted this warning this morning. One problem after the next, the Trump administration cleaning up, including the Federal Reserve. President Trump firing Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook on Monday, 2 days ago, following the FHFA referring her to the DOJ for suspected mortgage fraud. Cook, thus far, silent, not one denial. Instead, all she's done is lawyer up and refuse to leave her post, claiming the President of the United States doesn't have the authority to fire me. Really? Cook, appointed by Autopen Joe Biden, a DEI hire, not someone who's remotely qualified to be in that job. In fact, Lisa Cook has no published economic work. All of her published work prior to being appointed to the Federal Reserve Board was focused on race theory.
So who is Lisa Cook? She's a Biden appointee who keeps siding with Too Late Jerome to keep rates up. She's also a DEI economist.
I think it was really groundbreaking for the Biden-Harris transition to have as one of its core values promoting diversity. It's not just racial and ethnic diversity, it's not just gender diversity, but also geographic diversity, diversity along so many different dimensions. So I'm glad that there's a focus on it.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent torching Lisa Cook this morning, telling Maria Bartiromo she hasn't denied the allegations. Not once have we heard her say she didn't do it. That's a pretty good point. Watch.
Trump is putting undue pressure on the Fed, and there are people like President Trump and myself who think that If a Fed official committed mortgage fraud, that this should be examined, and that they shouldn't be serving as one of the nation's leading financial regulators. And what we haven't heard from Ms. Cook is we haven't heard her say, "I didn't do it." We haven't heard her say, "I didn't do it." She just keeps saying the president can't remove her. The other thing, too, that I have called in the recent past for an internal review of all the Fed's operations, and I've encouraged Chair Powell to do this on an internal basis before there is an external review. And this is the kind of thing that needs to be addressed, because the Fed is an unaccountable institution, and its relationship with the American people depends on a high level of trust. And incidents like this puncture that trust. So President Trump is trying to make sure that anyone who serves at this institution has the trust of the American people.
And of course, this firing.
White House top economic advisor Kevin Hassett saying as well this morning that Cook should go on leave. Stop halting the business of the board while your case is being litigated.
Well, the president absolutely has authority to fire a Fed governor for cause, and I think the accusations are serious, and I look forward to seeing the outcome of the dispute. I think that, if it were me and I had made the mistakes on the mortgage forms that are accused, and I would either deny it because it was not true, or I would go on leave until people resolve the matter. And the fact that she's not doing that now suggests that she's being partisan. She's trying to make a partisan stance, which is contrary to the independence of the Fed, really.
Do you believe that she should be presumed innocent, considering she hasn't been found guilty, or do you think she should just take leave?
If I were her in her circumstance, I would take leave right now. I think it's the honorable thing to do.
And who do you think should replace her?
That's something that'll be up to the president.
This is a big deal. President Trump knows he doesn't technically have the authority to fire Cook. He sort of does, but that's not the point here. The point is to force a constitutional crisis, bring the dirty truth behind the Fed to the surface, show the American people just how unaccountable the Fed really is, funded by taxpayers, yet accountable to nobody. President Trump trying to infiltrate the board here. The reason why this is so important is because there's an open seat right now from a governor that left early, which will soon be filled by Stephen Meir, Trump's handpicked governor. If Lisa Cook were to then leave, that would open up another seat, and Trump will be able to appoint another board member, which means President Trump would then have a 4-3 majority. He would have operational control, effectively, of the Fed. That's budgets, that's how they do research, process, but it also gives them control over the Federal Reserve Bank presidents, which we know that 5 of those presidents vote with the Fed on the overnight rate, cutting rates or raising the night rate. This would be a huge deal. Meanwhile, Fed Chair Powell has his own legal problems, and it's why Dems are now losing their minds. They're putting the pieces together. What's really at play here? Put in a position of defending mortgage fraud, alleged mortgage fraud. Watch this.
It's really that she did anything wrong, but anything that's being raised pertains to, back when she was a professor at Michigan State, not at the Fed. Normally, firing for a cause means that you're drinking on the job, or you're stealing office supplies or something like that. It's something related to not doing the job. And there's been no hint of that. Nothing, no one has claimed, even the Trump people aren't trying to claim that she's doing a bad job at the Fed, that she's unqualified or behaving inappropriately. So this is crazy. This is, if I cheated on my 3rd grade exam, should I be fired from my current job? This is completely insane.
House and Senate Dems releasing virtually matching posts on X saying Trump's attempt to fire Lisa Cook is a direct attack on the Fed's independence, putting your retirement mortgages and our economy at risk. These people must get their talking points directly from the DNC or from somebody. How do they all seem to post the exact same message? Lisa Cook hiring Hunter Biden's attorney, Abe Lowell, to represent her, filing a lawsuit and claiming POTUS has no legal authority over her or the Federal Reserve. Lowell vowing to take whatever actions are needed to stop what he describes as Trump's illegal actions. Trump responding, "I abide by the court," that he will abide by any court decision issued regarding Lisa Cook.
That Lisa Cook has indicated through a personal attorney that she'll promptly challenge this action in court, seek a judicial decision that would confirm her ability to continue.
That's all right, whatever it
says
is.
the Fed will abide by any court decision.
Thank you very much for reading
abide
that.
by a court decision.
I abide by the court, yeah. I abide by the court.
the
Yes,
court-
please. That's enough. That's enough.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Vanity Fair, other companies.
Meanwhile, Elizabeth Warren also very unhappy about this, specifically about Bill Pulte being so damn good at finding and catching alleged mortgage fraudsters, even though she was the one who was instrumental in the establishment of the FHFA after 2008. For exactly this reason, to stop people from doing what Adam Schiff, Lisa Cook, and Letitia James allegedly have done. Watch how she now doesn't seem to care. Watch.
Runs the risk of bringing down the whole economy. And understand, it's not that Mr. Pulte is actually using his power and authority. What he's doing is he's using access to individual records of Donald Trump's perceived enemies. And he just seems to be going through the enemies list to see, can he find any place in a complex mortgage document where he alleges someone has had something that doesn't entirely add up. And look, that's all we've got. We've got allegations from a man who's also been making allegations against Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Fed, who's been making allegations about the remodeling of the Fed. In other words, someone who's out there trying to engage in a political hit job. And this just happens to be the data that he has access to. And he's going to see if he can make claims, and that's all they are at this point, claims that someone has violated the law. And maybe that will help Donald Trump get rid of that person and continue in his efforts to take control over the Fed.
Yeah, I mean, this is Lisa Cook is obviously his latest victim, shall I say.
This is the same Elizabeth Warren, mind you, who committed fraud pretending to be part Native American. Now she's claiming Lisa Cook's mortgage fraud doesn't matter. I think it matters. It also matters that Lisa Cook is unqualified for the job, not to mention a hyper-partisan. Watch her here in 2020 claiming President Trump is most definitely a fascist. Watch.
Told me before Trump was elected not to make fun of what was happening, to take very seriously what was happening, because they've had recent skirmishes with fascism. They know the impact of fascism, and this guy is definitely a fascist and embraces that.
So Lisa Cook digging in, refusing to resign or step down, holding up the Fed's business, their work until her case is litigated in the courts, which means the next FOMC meeting in September will be very interesting. If she were to vote in that meeting and not step down, and then later the courts find her ineligible due to Trump firing her, then that FOMC rate cut may not be valid. It just creates all sorts of problems for the Fed. Jim Bianco, writing about this yesterday, saying Cook refusing to leave puts the Fed in a very difficult position. If they allow her to continue with her duties as Fed governor starting this morning, and the courts find that the president does have the authority to fire her, even if it's months later during an appeal, anything she does on behalf of the Fed as a governor starting today will not be valid, and the Fed could be held responsible for allowing a non-employee to continue to act like an employee. Restated, if the Fed allows her to stay and continue to be a governor, and that the court rules that Trump can fire her, again, even if it's later in appeal, then Jay Powell has potentially committed a for-cause offense for which he could be fired, allowing a non-Fed employee to make decisions and policy on behalf of the Federal Reserve. All of this causing a new level of uncertainty with the world's largest, most important central bank. And when investors get nervous, feel anxiety, uncertainty, what do? They turn to safe haven assets. We've already seen gold and silver explode higher this year, brought on in large part due to President Trump's overall economic strategy, his policies. In March 2025, Trump declared a critical minerals emergency, signed an executive order to unleash the vast mineral resources in this country, all in an effort to create jobs, fuel prosperity, and most importantly, reduce our reliance on foreign nations, especially on China. So President Trump firing Lisa Cook, appointing Steve Murin to the board. Steve Murin isn't just any other Fed governor. He's been crystal clear. A weaker dollar is the path to competitiveness and debt relief. Trump's plan to rein in the Fed, artificially devalue the dollar, means one thing: monetary policy is likely about to turn sharply in gold's favor. Lisa Cook's firing was just the last straw. The markets fully prepped for a big rate cut in September, which means the fuse has been lit. All of this tying in perfectly with today's sponsor, Resolution Minerals, ticker symbol RLMLF, which plays a big part in a lot of what we've been talking about. Resolution Minerals making a big U.S. push with their flagship critical minerals project, the Horse Haven Project, which just so happens to sit right next to Perpetual Resources' Stibnite mine, the largest antimony project in North America, sitting in one of America's safest mining jurisdictions in Idaho. State of Idaho ranks among the top mining-friendly states, and the project already has a plan of operations approved by the U.S. Forest Service for up to 59 drill holes at 19 different sites. And to top it off, Resolution Minerals has already received buyout offers on Horse Haven for more than $225 million, and they just began to drill. The best part is Resolution Minerals still sits under the radar in a big way, with a tiny market cap of $70 million, with buyout offers of $225 million, which likely means the majors are eyeing Resolution Minerals. The company just beginning to drill and an uplisting to the NASDAQ underway. They've engaged Roth for the uplist. So do your due diligence on Resolution Minerals. Historic production and recent sampling at Horse Haven included antimony, gold, and tungsten. This mine also was a past producing mine during World War II and the Korean War. The testing on antimony, a critical defense metal, showed something remarkable. Most antimony deposits are 1 to 5% SB. Horse Haven samples hit 19.15%, up to 19 times richer than typical. So look, with the combined proven history of wartime production, Horse Haven stands out as a rare elite-tier critical minerals asset in America's own backyard. So look, here's what I'll do. I'll leave a link in the description with a link to their company's website, all the information. So do your due diligence on Resolution Minerals. Always do your own due diligence. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.